Hello everyone, this is Jack. Well, in this video, I'm going to cover all the gardening mistakes that you must avoid. So, if you know these gardening mistakes, it's going to save you a lot of time and a lot of heartache. Now, on the top of my head, I'm going to name as many gardening mistakes as I can. So, let's see how many I can name. Let's get started. Number one, not knowing the composition of your soil. Now, the soil is made out of three major components: sand, silt, and clay. And a combination of these components can be a loamy type of soil. So if you hear about clay loamy soil or loamy clay soil, that means heavier on clay. It could be 70% clay, and it could contain other components such as silt and sand. So knowing the composition of your soil is very important, because clay soil retains more moisture and more fertilizers, and sandy soil drains a lot faster and it does not retain nutrients either. So you'll be adding a lot more fertilizers to your sandy soil as compared to clay soil. Number two, watering, and that's not providing sufficient amount of water to your plants. Now, each type of plant has its own watering requirement, which I'll be covering later as well. However, watering also depends on the type of soil you have as well. So both underwatering and overwatering can be a huge mistake. Now, if you ask someone how much I should be watering my plants, especially your tomatoes, cucumbers, or squash, you'll get a set answer. If you're using drip tube, water it for an hour or 2 hours. However, the correct answer depends on the type of soil you have, because clay soil retains moisture, but sandy soil provides really good drainage. So you will have a lot less watering to do if you have clay soil, but a lot more watering to do if you have sandy soil. Now, loamy soil is kind of like in the middle. And also, if you ask somebody whether I should be planting on berms or something, people always tell you plant on berms. But it also depends on the type of soil you have. So if you have clay soil, it's a really good idea to plant on berms, because clay soil retains moisture. So you want to have really good drainage in your clay soil so your plants don't get waterlogged. In loamy soil, you can plant on flat ground, and in sandy soil, it's actually recommended to plant in trenches. Now, I've had some subscribers come over to our UPIC farm, and they always ask me, my plants are not doing good. What am I doing wrong? They're not producing, they're not growing very well. And I always ask, how much are you watering your plants? And they'll say, oh, for about 5 to 10 minutes. I say, are they on sprinkler or drip? And they'll say, it's just on drip. Guess what? Each emitter provides about half a gallon of water in an hour. So if you're watering for just 5 minutes, you're not even watering even half a liter or a quarter of a liter of water to your plants. Now, certain plants take a lot more water than others. However, 5 minutes of drip watering is not enough. You need to water for at least an hour or two to provide sufficient water to your plants. Now, since watering depends on many factors, which I'm covering in this video, your watering duration is going to be different than other gardeners, because you will have different type of soil, you're in different zone or different weather pattern. So your watering will be specific to your garden, and you have to learn how to water your garden. And the best way to do it is to water your garden for a certain duration, then check your moisture level. If after 3 days you still have 70 to 80% moisture level, 6 inches under your ground, decrease your water duration. However, if you have below 50% moisture after 1 day, increase your water duration. Now, it will take a little bit getting used to, and you will get a hang of it real quick. Once you do it about 3 to 4 times, you'll know intuitively for how long to water your plants. Now, regarding the watering types of certain type of plants, that really depends on the type of plants you're growing. For example, rosemary and lavender take a lot less water than peppers and eggplants. Generally, for vegetables, you want to provide a gallon of water, which is about 3.5 liters of water every day or every other day, depending on the temperature in your area. Young fruit trees also take about 20 gallons of water per week, which is about 70 liters of water per week, and mature fruit trees take about 40 gallons, which is about 140 liters of water per week. Number three, not incorporating organic matter in your soil. Now, organic matter is the key to growing food organically. Now, in conventional farming, they're always focused on feeding the plant. So they're adding chemical fertilizer, which are rich in NPK ratio, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, and they feed it to their plants. And they want to grow bigger plants that produce bigger fruit and bigger vegetables. However, in organic gardening, we are not concerned about feeding the plant. We are concerned about feeding the soil. The soil, in turn, feed the plants. Now, this creates and retains microbial activity in the soil, which makes your soil living. Now, I have a separate video on how to make your soil living, so check that out if you're interested as well. Now, the best way to add organic matter to your soil is compost. Now, you can make your own compost, or buy compost. I also have videos on making your own compost as well, so check them out too. It doesn't matter if you're clay soil or sandy soil. Adding compost to your soil is no-brainer because compost retains more moisture than sandy soil and less moisture than clay. So if you add compost to your clay soil, it helps you add drainage. However, if you add compost to your sandy soil, it helps you retain moisture. It works both ways. Isn't that wonderful? Now, my great-grandfather was a big proponent of adding organic matter in your soil. He farmed organic all of his life, and he also taught me a few things about growing organic as well. And whenever he was talking about growing food, he stressed about taking care of your soil. You can also add manure such as cow manure, horse manure, and other kind of manure in your soil as well. However, I would be concerned about adding weed seeds which are contained in manure in your garden. So always compost manure first, let the pile heat up, kill off the weed seed, and then use it, or let the manure age for at least 7 to 8 months or 9 months and then use it. Number 4, fertilizing. Now, the art to fertilizing is using organic fertilizer such as the chicken manure fertilizer. The chicken manure fertilizer that I use is the 4:4:2 fertilizer, 4:4:2 being the NPK ratio of the fertilizer. Now, if you go to your garden center, go to Amazon, you'll find many different kind of organic fertilizers, chicken manure fertilizers, fish emulsion fertilizers. However, be careful about using fish emulsion because fish emulsion can contain excess amount of salt. Now, these salts can accumulate in your soil over time and be detrimental to your plants. Also, do not use chemical fertilizers. Now, chemical fertilizers can make your plants grow really big and beautiful. It can create really big fruit and vegetables. However, they can never give you that taste. My great-grandfather would always talk about fruit and vegetables that tasted so good back in the day. And he was talking about 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s time period. He was born in 1912 and he passed away in 2008. He lived up to be 96 years old and he had seen quite a bit. He had seen the advent of chemical fertilizers and he saw the transition that farmers were making from growing organic to chemical. Now, many people think growing organic is something new. It's not. Actually, conventional farming using chemical fertilizers is new because chemical fertilizers were invented just few decades ago and farmers heavily started using chemical fertilizers since the 80s. And he would always say the fruit and vegetables do not taste the same as they used to back in the day. And that all has to do with growing organic. Now, all of our ancestors through the centuries, they've all been growing organic except about the last 4 to 5 decades. Now, if you're going to use chemical fertilizer in your garden, I'll just say, don't even bother gardening. Just buy your fruit and produce from the grocery store. It's going to taste the same. However, if you're looking for the exceptional flavor, the flavor my great-grandfather was talking about, grow organic and use organic fertilizers and make your soil living. Now, in order to know how much fertilizer to add to your plants, you need to test your soil. Now, there are multiple DIY self-test kits available online that you can use to test for your soil and find out the NPK ratio or the nutrient deficiencies in your soil. Now, number 5, not growing what grows well in your zone. Now, if you want to garden correctly and you want to be successful in gardening, you must know your zones. Now, the hardiness zones depends on the average minimum temperature your area gets in the winter. Now, there are hardiness zones in US, in Europe, and other parts of the world as well. So the zone is not specific to US only, it is worldwide. So even if there's no official literature on gardening zone in the part of the world you live in, you can look up the scale and then find out the average minimum temperature in your area and you know which zone you belong to. Now, finding out what zone you live in is very important because certain plants only grow in certain zones. And when you go to nurseries or even search for plants on online nurseries, you'll always see a zoning range. Like this plants only grow from zone 5 to 9 or 4 to 7 or something like that. For example, northern highbush blueberries only grow in areas where it gets really cold. Cherries and other fruit trees such as stone fruit, they need minimum temperatures in the winter below 34 degrees in order to flower and set fruit in summer. Fruits like dragon fruit that are more tropical, they only grow in tropical zones, which is zone 10 and above. So grow what grows well in your zone and you will be successful. Mistake number 6, not using proper plant spacing or row spacing. Now, we are gardening, we are very excited and we want to plant as much as possible. Sometimes we have limited space, especially in our raised beds, and we want to cramp in as many plants as we can. However, having more plants does not mean more harvest, because plants compete for resources such as water, sunlight, and nutrients. So you must follow proper plant spacing and row spacing to have really good harvest. For example, if you plant lots of potatoes in a very small area, you'll get lots of potatoes but very small potatoes. However, if you plant one potato for every 2 square feet and only have 1 or 2 eyes on that potato, you'll get fewer potatoes but very big potatoes, and the weight of these potatoes will outweigh all of those small potatoes. Mistake number 7, not following crop rotation. Now, since we have a limited amount of space in our raised beds, we tend to plant the same type of crops in the same area year after year, and that is not such a great practice, because certain type of plants intake certain type of nutrients. For example, peas actually put nitrogen into the soil. Tomatoes and corn take a lot of nitrogen from the soil. Not rotating your crops can cause very specific type of nutrient deficiencies in the soil, and can also harbor pests and disease that are related to a specific type of plants as well. So it's a great idea to always rotate your crops, give your soil a break, and give your soil a chance to bounce back so you can have a very healthy soil. Mistake number 8, not following companion planting. Now, my great-grandfather always used to say, plants are like people. Sometimes you get along with somebody, sometimes you don't. If you do get along with somebody, stay together. If you don't, keep your distance. You can interplant basil with tomatoes and peppers. You can also plant garlic near your carrots and broccoli in fall or autumn, and near tomatoes and peppers in spring. Garlic is a natural pest repellent. Do not plant tomatoes and corn together because they attract same kind of pests and feed on same kind of nutrients. You can also follow 3-sister planting technique, which involves planting corn, beans, and squash together. Mistake number 9, not mulching. Now, there are many different source materials you can use to mulch your plants. However, not all materials are the same. Now, I've had mixed results using wood chips as mulch, because wood chips can also introduce fungal diseases and can harbor pests like earwigs. So be careful about using wood chips. I have separate videos about using wood chips as mulch. The link will be in the description. I'm not saying wood chips are bad. I'm saying you must know how to correctly use wood chips in your garden. Now, there are other materials you can use as mulch as well, such as straw, grass clippings. These are really good sources that actually add organic matter to your soil as well. However, they do contain weed seeds. If you're going to be using grass clippings as mulch, cut your grass before it goes to seed so that it does not contain any weed seeds or grass seeds in your mulch. Now, the best source of mulch is leaves, especially fallen leaves in fall or autumn, because these do not contain any weed seeds. Now, there are many benefits to mulching. Mulch retains moisture in the soils, suppresses weeds from growing, and also protects the roots. Number 10, using chemical pesticides. Now, using chemical pesticides can be very detrimental to your environment because they also kill off beneficial insects. My great-grandfather always used to say, the farmer only needs 3 friends: earthworms, ladybugs, and honeybees. And now I understand the importance of why. Earthworms make organic fertilizer in ground. Honeybees go flower to flower and help in pollination. And ladybugs, they are the natural pest control. Ladybugs eat aphids, whiteflies, and variety of insects that would otherwise hurt our plants. You can use neem oil and pure castor soap. Just add 1 tablespoon of neem oil and 1 tablespoon of pure castor soap to 1 gallon of water, which is about 3.5 liters of water. Now, using neem oil and soap works really well against soft body insects such as aphids, whiteflies, and spider mites. However, it may not work against other type of insects. So there are other organic products you can use, such as diatomaceous earth, spinosad, etc. I have a video on complete guide on organic pest control if you want to check it out. I'll leave a link in the description of this video. Now, there are other mistakes that you must avoid as well, and I also keep making some of these mistakes. For example, planting too early. Sometimes I plant in March and there's a frost that comes in afterwards that kills off all of my seedlings. Or sometimes I just plant too late. I plant my potatoes towards the end of September and we get a frost in November, and my potatoes only get about 2 months of growth before they get stopped out by frost. So I'm also constantly learning as well. So if you know some of the gardening mistakes that I've not covered in this video, comment below. If you like this video, you're going to like the video on complete guide to organically manage pests in your garden, and you can check out the video right here, and I'll see you in another video.